everybody. Welcome to Your Own Pathway Leadership and Mental Well-Being. For those who don't know me, my name is Paya. I'm a licensed psychotherapist and trauma informed organizational leadership consultant. And I help leaders and teams realign to their values, rebuild trust, and create systems rooted in psychological safety and purpose. Because this isn't just about leadership, it's about how we are healing and how we lead. So we're all about owning it. And today's episode, I think all of us can relate. We've had questions and we think, what? Is it all just my imagination? And so today's episode is no, you're not imagining it. You are being gaslit at work. So this one should be a fun one. Not fun, I would say, but a very educational one, and one that probably validates so many of us. So we are talking about a word that has taken over TikTok, Instagram, and pretty much every conversation in the last 3 years. Yes, we are talking about the word gaslighting. But before we go on, I want you to pause for a moment. And again, because we often talk about gaslighting only in the context of personal relationships, romantic relationships, family relationships, and friendship dynamics, and definitely romantic relationships. But I think a lot of us have wondered about gaslighting and how it looks like in organizations and work and where it is actually happening. And here's the thing though, when we have certain conversations at work and somebody who's usually your boss or someone higher up said something and you're like, oh, I'm imagining things, right? I'm feeling this way. Maybe I am too sensitive, or maybe I'm misreading the situation, or maybe I am making it a bigger deal than it is. If you're asking yourself these questions, you're being gaslighted at work by systems, by cultures, by leadership, and communication patterns that were never designed to name the truth. And so I want to start today's conversation with something I realized after years of being an EAP clinical therapist and working with people from, I worked with people who are hourly employees. I've worked with managers and high performers and emerging leaders in all organizations. And for every time a leader came to me feeling overwhelmed, feeling confused, self doubting, spiraling, or ashamed, gaslighting was underneath the surface of all of this. And beneath that gaslighting was shame. Shame is the root feeling of organizations that we never talk about. And so I actually did an episode on this on shame not too long ago. And you already know why shame is a hidden fuel behind organizational dysfunction. If you haven't seen the episode yet, I'll pause and it's in the description box. It will really deepen everything we're about to explore. Because today we're pulling back the curtain on a form of psychological manipulation and abuse. Yes, it's abuse that has quietly shaped entire corporate cultures. And that is organizational gaslighting. Oof. And by the end of this episode, you will know what it looks like, why it happens, how it impacts your mental health, how to reclaim your power and your clarity, and why this matters so much for the future of leadership. So, let's get right into it. So, the first part I want to discuss is what gaslighting really is and what it means. So, just to clarify, gaslighting is not someone disagreeing with you. It's not someone giving you feedback. It's not even someone challenging your perception. What gaslighting is, it's a systematic, where it distorts your reality to make you really doubt your own perception, memory, or your sanity. And in the workplace, gaslighting often sounds like, okay, for example, you raise a concern and they minimize it. You name a pattern, they deny it. You bring data, they shift the narrative. You ask for clarity, they make you feel like you're difficult, or you express discomfort and you're imagining it. Gaslight at work is not loud. It's very, very subtle. It's rarely confrontational. It's rarely dramatic. What it is, it's quiet. It is professional. It is polite. It is rehearsed. And it is extremely effective. Because workplace gaslighting is not just interpersonal, it is institutional. There are policies that gaslight. I think we've all had those policies. There are cultures that gaslight. Yes, we've all worked in cultures that gaslight. Oh, yes. We've definitely had the emails that gaslit. And we've had leadership that gaslights without even recognizing that they're doing it because they've been trained to operate inside systems that avoid accountability. And here is where it gets clinical. When you get gaslit time after time after time, and it's not Cindy Lauper time after time, your body enters a chronic flight, fight, freeze, fawn, and it's a cycle. And your brain begins to believe, you know what? Maybe I am the problem, or okay, maybe I did overreact, or you know what? I should have just stayed quiet, and I can't trust myself. I want you to know this is not a personality issue. This is a certain nervous system response to repeated emotional invalidation. So, moving on, let's talk about the organizational gaslighting pattern. Let's break down the pattern. I've seen across so many of my clients, and especially big Fortune 500 companies, nonprofits, health system, tech startups, government agencies, fast food, you name it all. So, pattern number one, I want to clarify is the problem is you, not the environment. You say, our department is drowning. We need support. You know how they respond? Everyone seems fine. Are you managing your time well? Oof, I felt that one. I felt that one. Because I've been told that time and time again. You're the problem, not us. You're terrible at time management. I felt that right one. Okay, so what does this actually mean? What is the translation of this? The problem is not workload. The problem is your competency. So this keeps the system intact and you disempowered. Okay. Pattern number two is the erase history effect. So you reference a long-standing issue. Leadership responds, oh, that was before. Things are different now. We've already addressed that. That's not the culture anymore. But nothing has changed. So, what this does is this erases the truth and forces you to question your memory. You're like, really? Did we? Oh, okay, maybe I am crazy. Okay, pattern number three. Oh, the deflection and the reframe. So, you bring up a toxic behavior, they say. Now, let's not focus on blame. Let's focus on solutions. You're interpreting the tone here, or Oh, they didn't mean it like that. Well, we all have different communication styles. So, what does this translate to? Avoiding accountability at all costs. Pattern number 4. Oh, yes. The performative listening loop. So, leadership decides to schedule listening sessions, or what is it, one of those big sessions where a town hall or sessions or surveys, and nothing changes. When you ask about follow ups, they say, "We heard you. We're working on it. We'll circle back to you." Except they don't. They never. And so, what this does is this creates learned helplessness, confusion, and self doubt. Pattern number 5, the emotional professional trap. You're told, hey, you got to be professional. And this is code for suppress your emotions, silence the truth, accept harm, and normalize dysfunction. So, this is what I say. Gaslighting is the emotional weapon of unaligned organizations. When leaders are functioning from shame, which is very extremely common, gaslighting becomes a shield, and a shield that they hide behind. And this is why, I created this like shame framework, because I'm like, oh my God, everything, everything is rooted in shame. And that's why I built it. And because shame quietly shapes everything from decision making to communication to crisis response. So, moving on is what the impact of gaslighting at work. Here's what gaslighting does over time, clinically and psychologically. Number 1, you begin to distrust your intuition. Your intuition is your inner compass. The one that tells you something feels off gets overridden. And this is how people stay in toxic companies for years. You don't trust yourself anymore. That's essentially what happens. Number 2 is you lose your confidence. Even extremely, dare I say, competent leaders begin shrinking. You begin speaking less, you ask for less, and you expect less. Because this is not personality anymore. This is all about survival. Number 3 is your nervous system becomes dysregulated. Chronic gaslighting produces anxiety, hypervigilance, rumination, insomnia, cognitive fog, and emotional exhaustion. Even as I'm talking about all this, I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been through all of those symptoms before. Yep, yep, yep. Because your body is constantly trying to predict the next invalidation. And even as I'm talking about this is hard to hear, but this is the type of clients that I work with when there has been a lot of trauma. Yes. I know that's hard to hear, but those are the exact symptoms that I hear from a lot of my trauma clients who have been through very traumatic events. You also internalize systematic failure. And this is the part that no one talks about. Organization gaslighting or gaslight, because they don't want to face their own dysfunction. I think about this. Like, I think about parents. I think about therapy clients who've had so much trauma, or are working through so many things, and the parents, now they're in these systems, and the parents gaslight because they don't want to face their own dysfunction. And so, in a way, organizations become this power, like our parents, who can make or break us because their refusal to see their own dysfunction. And so instead of addressing the broken systems, the poor communication, the understaffing, the unclear expectations, the toxic culture, unskilled leadership, we've all had that, they put the emotional responsibility onto you. And here's where this intersects with shame. Gaslighting works because it activates your shame. Shame makes you silent. Shame makes you small. Shame makes you doubt. And shame makes you easier to manage. Because when shame is activated, you become more compliant. Not because you're weak, but because the environment has conditioned you into psychological submission. And this is why leadership shame matters. This is why, again, I created the shame framework. And this is not about me like promoting my shame framework, but shame is, again, such an important feeling and emotion in all of this. And this is why organizations collapse from the inside out. So, how do you know? How do you know when you're being gaslit? The following are some signs that you know what you're being gaslighted. So, conversations. Have I think we've all had this at work where we have conversations that leave you so much more confused rather than clear. You're like, what was that about? What was the point of that? Like, I've gotten even more confused after than before, so nothing got done. Another thing is you rehearse everything you say because you fear being misunderstood. You start apologizing for things that you didn't do, and you don't trust your memory or your version of events. Another thing is you seek you seek validation from your coworkers constantly. I've done this too. I admit I would go to a coworker, colleague after an event. I'm like, did that make sense? Was that just me? Am I overthinking it? You start thinking it's me, it's me, it's me, and you need the validation to say, okay, I'm not crazy. You also feel guilty for having normal emotional responses. I think this one we all have been through is you feel like you are walking on eggshells because it's so unpredictable. The environment is so unpredictable. Your bosses or leadership's behavior or responses is so unpredictable that you're on eggshells. Like everybody's walking on eggshells. You're more exhausted from the politics than the work. Oof. If you resonated with any of this, you're not imagining it. You're not imagining it. You are being gaslit. And so all of this sounds really disempowering. And I want you to know, who's ever watching this, that you don't have to be disempowered. There are steps that you can take to protect yourself. And the first thing that you need to do is document. Document, document, document. Gaslighting loses power when there is a record of reality. Save your emails, save your timelines, write summaries after meetings, log dates, times, and examples, because this shows that, okay, you know what? This is not paranoia. This is protection. And not that you're paranoia, but it's just because you're like, okay, there's a pattern here that I see, and I need to protect myself, and I'm going to start documenting everything. Step 2 is name the pattern, not your emotion. So instead of saying, I feel ignored, say, I noticed the original concern wasn't addressed. This keeps you grounded and in observational like reality. Also, build your internal witnesses. So gaslighting really isolates, and you need people who can reflect truth back to you. And this could be a mentor, this could be a therapist, a coach, a peer you trust, and an external consultant. People who can say, "No, you're not imagining things. You are feeling and sensing correctly." Another thing is reclaim your intuition. Ask yourself, if I trusted my inner knowing completely, what would I do next? Because your intuition is the first gaslighting attacks. And that's what you must reclaim is your intuition. They want you to not trust your intuition because your intuition is strong. And there's a reason why they want you to ignore your intuition. And also decide what is salvageable. And some organizations can heal and some cannot. That is beyond your control. That is beyond your control. That is not your lane anymore. Some leaders can be coached, some cannot. And again, this is where my consulting work enters the conversation because gaslighting is not just an individual issue, it is a systematic breakdown that is often rooted in shame, avoidance, and emotional incompetence. Yes, I said that emotional incompetence. And when a system reaches that level of dysfunction, it requires trauma informed realignment, a lot of work, and not pressure on individual employees. And so I will leave you all with this if you're still here with me. Gaslighting thrives in silence, and clarity thrives in truth. So you're not imagining it, you're not too emotional, you're not overreacting, you're not dramatic, you're not misreading the situation. You are reacting to an environment that has been trained to distort reality and especially distort your reality. And if no one has ever told you this, your perception is valid, your intuition is intelligent, and it is your compass. Your clarity is a threat to this dysfunctional systems. If you are experiencing this in your workplace, or if you are a leader noticing these patterns emerge in your organization, there are solutions. There are frameworks. There are ways to repair this emotional architecture of a workplace. Because gaslighting is not just a communication issue, it is a cultural issue, it is a leadership issue, it is a shame issue, and a systems issue. And again, this is exactly the kind of work that I do. And if you want to understand the deeper emotional mechanics behind all of this, go watch my leadership shame episode, which again is linked in the description box. And if you are a leader, a HR director, or an organizational executive watching this quietly, I just want to say you are not imagining it either. Your system is speaking, and it's time to listen. So, as always, own your truth, own your power, and own your pathway. That is all I have for today. And if you like this video, please hit the like button. If you like my other videos on leadership or any of my your own pathways, please hit the subscribe button. But I will see you all next time. Please take care and have a great day. Have a great week. Bye.